Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. Sorry it's taken a few more days. I had some stuff to deal with again. And one or two things came up. So we're here, we got the Deck Doctor 250 subscriber special sort of thing. We've got 3 decks to look at today. It took me like a day or two just to build them all and like test them enough to comfortable to put them out there. But I feel that all 3 of them can be used pretty effectively if you know how to use the deck. They can perform. So let's just get right into the first one. So I was sent Paleozoic Live Twin, which I didn't really know what the Live Twins did, other than one gets the other and the other one gets the other. It's a bit weird, but yeah, he gave me a skeleton to work with, and he said that he had like a budget of 100 quid. So I try my best to keep it as budget as possible while also having the most sort of bang for your buck, let's say. So there's a few options which I wasn't a big fan of in the original list, like the Angel Statue. I think you may have thought that you could send the normal Paleozoics when they summon as monsters, but you can't because they're not continuous, because they're normal. And the Angel Statue specifically says continuous trap monsters. Also wasn't a biggest fan of the lineup of the twins. I'm pretty sure there's more came out, so spoke to a few friends who knew more about Live Twins than me, and then we sorted it out. So we've got the better ratios coming up, and then just playing 3 hand traps like that, I'm not the biggest fan of. Especially since Skullmeister isn't the most effective hand trap in this format. If there's going to be anything, it will be Gamma for me, which I tried to test out a little bit and it just didn't work too well. So yeah, the extra deck is just bare bones, just the things he wants to keep it up to put in. So going into the list that I've created. So this is more of a, I think it's more of a streamlined version. We got the Batjack in there, which is quite reminiscent of that Bonobus and normal Paleozoic. Partnered up with a 2-theme Griefing because I feel that the graveyard is so powerful in this format, where if you have a theme Griefing, shuffle back a Triname, shuffle back a Drytron, or a Benton if it's just been tributed, get a Batjack gets you another trap. That's so much more resources. It does mean that your other theme Griefing is a bit dead, which can suck, but you do have like Silent Minds to discard it, or you do have like your Nightmares to discard it as well. So it's not the end of the world, it's just not perfect. And it doesn't help that this deck doesn't have any in archetype fiends. But I did put the 1 trap trick in there just as I couldn't think of the last card, and I didn't really want to main the order in this list. But trap trick is actually pretty decent if you go for a Griefing, because you get the dead Griefing out of deck, and then it means that you have no more dead cards left in deck. It is all just gas. I did decide on the breakthrough skill. I think in his original list he had Lost Wind. No, I think I might be in a different list. But reason I picked Breakthrough Skill is because this format, Tri-Brigade Zoodiac is very strong. If you go first, Breakthrough Skill is very good. It's just like an impermanence. But then coming back to your turn, you get another use out of it. So you can then negate a Appaloosa, or if you get Dragon, negate a Heretic Spheres, a Boa Savage. Just anything. It's so strong in a slower, grindier deck, and I think it works well with most other things here. Oh, I forgot to say that you can discard the spare Griefing off of Dynamiscus as well. So Paleozoic lineup, we've got 10 of them. I always like this. 10 is very solid. Canadian is very strong in this format because of Tri-Zoo. Dynamiscus has always been good. Morella is okay. It's there for just fill up the graveyard a bit, but you can also send Breakthrough Skill for a negate on your turn, which is also nice. And Ollanoides, if he's going to cut 1 down to 2, it probably would be Ollanoides. But I feel that just Dust Tornado, which comes back as a monster, is still pretty decent, even if you have to pop your own things. Strike is very strong. It's a tiny bit more pricey than other things, but it's worth the few quid. Torrential's decent enough. There's no... so Torrential's in a funny place for me. It feels really strong, but it feels really crap at the same time. So I feel this is going to be a card which is going to be sided out occasionally. for some stronger options in the side deck, but I feel that for a price point of what we're playing with, this is probably one of the better cards for us. I also decided to throw in 2 Silent Mining. I had a quick look and it's pretty cheap, but this means that you have 8 copies of your original Live Twins instead of just 6, or it means that you have 11 because you do have the home, which also gets them. So yeah, the Silent Mining gives it a little bit more consistency to get your original twins out, which I do prefer. 3 home, discard 1 special one's quite simple. Desires I'm not a fan of, but I feel this deck does need like a draw 2 spell. You can't play Desires because the extract's kind of important with Live Twins. You can't play Prosperity because it's out of the budget range. You can't play like Allure, so this is the like best bet. It does suck with things like Trap Trick, and if you're doing for Griefing and Backjack, you may banish some of them. But I feel the pluses off of this card are going to outweigh the negatives, so I think it is a mainstay in this deck. Go into the extra deck, open just to get a search for a Paleozoic if you need it. Also, all the Live Twins are level 2, so you can always search a Paleozoic that way. Put the 1 Toad because it can add itself back, so you're never going to run out of it. And the Live Twin Kiss or Kill Frost is also an Aqua, where Toad doesn't require a water Aqua, it just requires 2 level 2 Aquas, so that means you have another easy way to get into Toad, which is a very strong guy. Ball Sword, I mean, very strong 1-turn kill thing. I think it's pretty cheap as well, so it should stay within the budget. 3 of each Evil Twin, kind of obvious. 2 Nightmares. I'd cut the Cerberus because I'm not feeling Cerberus at the moment, it just doesn't feel as strong as the other 2. Link Spider, so you can link off your Paleozoic to then go into a Bull Sword, or you can have it so you can for down arrow for your Phoenix, or just like have a down arrow for your Security Dragon if you want to bounce something. Abramax, pretty cheap, pretty strong. Some matchups, well, some decks just can't deal with it, which I find quite hilarious. But yeah, it's strong enough, and you can make it quite easily. If you're comboing off, say you got both of these out on your field during your opponent's turn, you summon out one of these guys, you can make a Phoenix or a Unicorn spin or pop something, make an Avramax, and sometimes they just can't out it. Security Dragon is just a very cheap option just to bounce something. It'd be a lot better if you had a possibility to play a Scapegoat, because that means that it makes it so much easier, but it's just another nice little option. And then Abomination is very strong because it plays around the restriction from the Evil Twins, because they got immune to things if you use their second effect, I believe. So yeah, that was a Paleozoic Live Twin. I tested a little bit with it. It feels very strong. It's not the best deck in the world by any means, but if you took this to locals, you should, if you know how to play the deck and you get a bit lucky, you should do pretty well. So moving on to the next deck. So now we've got an amalgamation of Orcust. I'm a pretty big fan of Orcust. I played it when it was just everywhere. First top with it as well, which I'm quite happy with. It was a very different version to this, but looking at this, it just seems very cloggy. The Illusion Magicians I don't mind too much as like a free discard to summon, but it just doesn't feel too good. Bombard is meh. If he was playing Needle Fiber, I probably would understand it more. But from Gearsu is still strong. 1 Phantasme just puts me off a little bit. It may be that he wanted a 50 card list and put 3 Phantasme in. Not too sure. But not a fan of 1 Phantasme. Then the 2 Big Dangers I don't mind, but it's just having 1 of each like this is just, if you're going first, these 2 don't really do anything. It's just a big body. He's got a little rocket engine in here, which I'm not mad about. It's just I feel if you draw 1 of these, or if you draw the Tracer, the quick launch now just becomes special summon 1 monster, and it just doesn't feel nice. Other than that though, the list seems pretty decent. The side deck needs a little bit of work, and then the extra deck these two are understandable with the rocket engine in there. But with all that said, oh, he also has Dragoon in here, which is understandable because Dragoon is a hell of a card. So now we've streamlined it a bit more. We've got it down to 40 cards. So the big standout point here, at least in my eyes, is I've cut Torn Scale down to 1. The reason I've done this is because mathematically, with the amount of normal summons you're playing, you should see 1. So I always like going for 5 to 6. I'm always on the 6 side because I would rather open 2 than open none. So I've made sure it was 6. So we got the 3 Orcus, the Gearsu, which is your main normal summon. Then you got your Grepher and your Armageddon Knight, which are both pretty strong normal summons. Grepher is a bit weaker in some instances because you need that discard. And then Torn Scale is an okay card to play. It's just if you start with this, then it's really rough to get your second Fog Blade. Yeah, it's really rough to get your second Fog Blade is all. Which would be better if you played multiple of the Phantom Knights, but I feel that they will just clog more than they will help. Yeah, Bombard's out, Phantasmic out. I put the Mothman over the 2 big ones because I feel that the consistency from Mothman is a lot better, especially since if you do hit it, or if you do discard it, say off of a Grepher or a Torn Scale, you can draw a card and then discard the Nightmare and start plays more, which I feel is really nice. And it also is a guaranteed draw one in a sense, because if you hit it or if you don't, you're always going to draw a card. 3 Allure, quite standard. Foolish, another good starter. I moved the droplets on the side to the main because I feel this deck can struggle going second sometimes. I go up against things like Drytron with Herald. It's going to be a rough match if you have to deal with that. So I feel that the droplets definitely worthwhile in the main for this, especially against Tri-Brigade as well. It can be an issue to deal with a board sometimes, but this is very good as a discard outlet and as well as a blanket negation on certain things. And you can also kill them that turn as well, which is also very nice. I kept Reborn in here because it felt like it was decent enough to give you an extra play, because you can go like Gearsu, Send, Nightmare, get once Reborn, and that means you have an extra extender. Where if you have one extra extender with Gearsu, say if you open Gearsu plus Foolish, you can end on some absolutely insane boards with Dragoon, Rusty with 2 Fog Blades, and Alive a Dingirsu Send, which I think is bar far just a lot of decks will struggle to beat that in this format. 1 Babble, 2 Return. I think that's kind of standard. I think 1 is more streamlined, but I think 2 is decent enough since you do play 6, 9 targets, so it's always nice, as well as to draw into things like Impermanence and Droplet, which you don't really have access to other than by drawing them. Red Fusion, Realtor, all standard. 3 Imperm because I feel for this format, this is the only real hand trap you can. If you're going to play one hand trap, you play Imperm because it hits Tri-Brigade and it hits Drytron and it doesn't play into Triple Talents tactics. They're the main issues I'm seeing with most of the hand traps, where they do play into it. But Imperm I feel is in that nice middle ground where it does enough, but it also doesn't play into tactics. 1 Crescendo, you only really need 1 unless you're playing more of a control variant, and then 2 Fog Blade for the rusty stuff. So we kept the Super Poison aside because I feel that this deck can take advantage of it quite well, with the discard outlet as well as everything being dark. So you just need 1 other dark, you make your Starving Venom. Dragoon of course, 2 Dingirsu, you always want to have access to 1, either via Graveyard or by your extra deck. I put the Break Sword in there because there's a few ways to make it, and it's a decent it's a decent removal option in all honesty. So you have your 3 Phantom Knights as normal, you also have your Skeletons, and you also have the 2 level 3 Dangers, so it won't come up that often, but I feel when it does come up it will help a lot. Access Code Talker because it just wins games by itself. 2 Galatea, very strong card, gets you all your spells and traps and starts just shuffle back your stuff into the extra deck. Into the deck. And the extra deck if you get Cruel Bite, so always keep that in mind. IP Masquerade is very nice. Nightmare Unicorn's decent to go off off the IP. It's say if you draw one of the Red Eyes pieces, you can end on that instead. A Link Kuriboh for the combo with Gearsue. Long Gearsue is a nice little option. It's not the best card in the world, but you kind of need to play it just because it's a non-targeting removal, as well as it shuffles back 2. So you got Pediplant Verte for your Dragoon, of course. Rusty gets you your Fog Blades, and then Zeraboros is just a massive board wipe, which can just win you the game sometimes. Side deck, Drownlock Bird for Drytron, Dark Rhythmore for any crazy combo deck, like if say Drytron and on the Herald, this is another way to out it. More control matchups for the Duster, the Storms, and the Twins. I put the Twins in there over Cosmics because you don't want to play cards which lose to Lancia, because you already play a deck that loses to Lancia. That's why I didn't put Evenly's in there either, where it's a strong card, don't get me wrong, it's just why play more cards to lose to Lancia, even though your whole deck loses to Lancia. Then you got Free Super Poly. It's a nice card. It's probably not the most optimal choice, but I feel that in this deck you can make the most of it. So, going to a third and final deck, a deck which is quite close to my heart. So this is Trap Vein Abyss. For those who've been on the channel for any amount of time, or just look through my videos, you know that this is sort of my deck. So the requirements around this list was just to have no Pot of Prosperity or no Dragoon, which is understandable. They're quite expensive cards, and sometimes you just don't want to play Dragoon because of the bricks, and it can just be annoying to draw the Dark Magician half the time. So I've given a pretty decent starting point with it all. The BA lineup looks decent enough. The traps looks okay. 41 isn't there. I probably want to play a little more cards, because with a Burning Abyss, more cards feels better, especially if you're playing like Trap Trick. You don't want to open up multiples of Trap Trick. But overall, solid list. Side deck, I wasn't too keen on Appointers, because this deck doesn't really make... To make the use of a pointer, you need to be able to guarantee that you kill your opponent next turn and get your value off of a pointer, which you can do sometimes, but it's just not consistent enough where I feel that it's warranted. Next deck's kind of like standard. I'm not a fan of Cerberus still, but it's not the worst thing in the world. So, moving on to what I've put together. So this is a little bit different, in all honesty. So you got the BA lineup as normal. I think I'm missing one. Yeah, I haven't put the Cow Cab in there. You can, if you'd like, you can always put the Cow Cab in, but I feel that this format's going to be pushing away from some back row. But of course, you can put it in there, like say, I put the Order in the side deck and just main deck the Cow Cab. But always play for your local format. Overall, I'd say this is probably better, but if your locals has a lot more like Invoke Shadow, or just more like can't think control decks, then just put it in. It'll be a nice little option to send off a Fiend Griefing, or just to discard off like the Dynamiscus or whatever. So like standard lineup apart from Cow Cab, but we'll move on. Fiend Griefing's very strong. IDP, I put this in there because it's so strong in certain matchups, but it's just not the best card in the world anymore. Like if your budget doesn't allow it, you can just cut it and then say put the Cow Cab in there. I mean, just play 44, which I'm not mad about. It seems decent enough. But I would, if you have it, I would recommend at least trying it as a 2 of. I don't think it's a warranted a 3 of anymore. It's good in the Tri-Brigade Zoo matchup, but against Drytron it does nothing. Order, because we like our Saki 1-ofs. 3 and Perm is the only hand trap which I feel is warranted playing in like slower decks to deal with like Tri-Brigade and to deal with Drytron. Karma Cup, standard. Needle Sealing I like a lot, because in this deck you don't really care about it too much. It does suck a little bit more that Torrential and Needle Sealing hurts us a little bit more because you don't have Dragoon, because that can't be destroyed. But hitting it off of like a Batjack with a dino player going to battle phase and they don't go for Lagia, you can literally just wipe them out. That's what I've done before. He had about 20k damage on field. He attacks my set Batjack. Batjack gets me a Needle Sling plus Tour Guide, and then I just win from there. So it is crazy. 3 Dynamiscus, very solid. 3 Strike, insanely good. Strike plus Sealing or Torrential, it can just be a... It's just an FTK sometimes. And Trap Trick just to get access to all your traps. Extra Trick's very standard. Over the Cerberus, I think the only change I made was the Link Spider. And if you do have it, I would recommend going with Access Code Talker. But if you don't have it, Ball Sword will do just fine. When I was playing BA before with Dragoon, I never even played, I didn't go into Access Code Talker. But in the same vein, I wouldn't have went into Ball Sword either, because I had enough damage on field anyway. But yeah, X-Shrek's pretty standard for the Dragoonless build. Side deck, more just hand traps for the problematic matchups. Tri-Brigade Zoo with Lancia, Drill for Drytron, Aerial for Drytron and Tri-Zoo if you do go first. Or if you'd like, you can go with a Zombie World package. So the whole play is you send Banshee off of Beatrice, you get your Zombie World. You don't care about being zombies apart from Rhino, which can be annoying sometimes, but that's completely fine. And what this does is it changes all the attributes in the graveyard and on the field. So for the Tri-Brigade matchup, Zombie World is so strong because they can't banish from the graveyard because they're no longer Tri-types, and they can't revolt because as soon as they hit the field, they're no longer Tri-types, so they can't summon. And Aerial's there for more Drytron, more or less. Just a quick removal option for 3 cards is very strong. I would play evenly in this. The gentleman said that he had evenly, so it's a very strong card in this format, I'd like to say. Not many decks play a main deck out for... Oh, they don't play out so evenly. Occasionally you would hit a Judgment, but if you hit a Judgment, it's not the end of the world. They're on 4k life points now. You can just grind them down, and hopefully you get there. I mean, Judgment for going first. So, I believe that's about it. If you've got any questions about the lists I put together, just let me know. Yeah, I feel I did an okay job. There's one or two like odd choices here and there, but I feel overall it was a decent go at it. I'll be putting links down below if you want to ever try out one of the decks I've put together here. So on that note, I'd say thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully for the people who I've built these decks for, these insights help to attempt to make it a bit better. Or if they don't, just let me know I'm a dumbass. And then just dislike, smile. So, bye!